This episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast is brought to you by Nomadicare. Now, personally, I love Nomadicare. I've used Nomadicare, and I recommend the company to all new travelers. What Nomadicare does is it takes the fear out of getting set up with a bad recruiter, which is the biggest fear that you have jumping into this journey. So they sit down, they interview recruiters, they vet them, get them on a list, and then provide them to you as a free service, as a free recruiter matchmaking service in order to get you started on your journey. Now, usually you only get 2 recruiters going through Nomadicare, but being a listener of the show, you can get 3. So this is how it's going to work. You go to nomadicare.com/Dylan. You will get set up with 3 recruiters to be on your dream team, as well as a guide to get you started on your journey.
Dr. Alex Engar, where are you at in the world right now?
I am in Farmington, Utah.
Hey Nomads, welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dylan Callier, and today I have a special guest with me, Dr. Alex Engar, the most excitable man alive. Alex, how are you doing?
Ain't that the truth? Dude, I am fantastic. A little bit sick so you can hear it in my voice, but that can't stop us, man.
That won't stop us. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're up to?
Yeah, brother. So I'm a new physical therapist. I'm not so nomad. I'm pretty stuck at where I'm at right now. But I am nomad in the sense that we'll talk about in a little bit, is I do enjoy travel. And I graduated about 1.5 years ago. Actually, I guess just over 1 year ago. I shouldn't date myself that much yet. Just over 1 year ago from the University of Utah physical therapy program. And I am actually a full-time digital marketing consultant for clinics and therapists around the world. And so along with Will Boyd, who I don't know if you've had Will Boyd on your podcast yet.
Not yet. It'll happen.
He's the king of physical therapy podcasts, and he and I work together teaching PT clinics how to do Facebook ads and build their presence online, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. And so with this episode, we're talking about travel hacking and the world of credit card points, and you were really the person that introduced that to me. Could you go into that and kind of explain that a little bit to the listeners who aren't aware of what travel hacking is?
Oh man, it's such a beautiful world. Do you want me to tell my story about how I got into it?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I want you to picture you're in PT school or you're in grad school, whatever, and I had $9,000 of tuition due every single semester, right? And so I'm sitting here a few years ago. I had gotten into 2% back rewards cards, right? I was like, oh man, I convinced my wife, hey, if we put all our expenses on this 2% back rewards card, it's like we get a 2% raise, right? Now all of a sudden I get this 2% cash back. So I was rocking that for a little while. And then I realized, wait a minute, I could put tuition on this 2% cash back card. And suddenly 2% off $9,000, hey, that actually starts to stack up a little bit, right? That's like a couple $100. And so as soon as I realized that, I was like, dang, there's got to be something more than a 2% back card. And that's when I started looking into it and realized that credit card companies have sign-up bonuses. And that's when the magic began, Dylan. So for a lot of people who are in school or they're younger like me and it's not like the money's free-flowing, we feel like, man, I'm going to have to live on pure ramen for 1 year if I want to go on a nice vacation. And so you know how it is, right? So I got to the point where I was like, dang, maybe we can get one of these sign-up bonuses and put all of our tuition on it and just knock it out. And this works too. We can get into this down the road, but this works if you've got student loans that you're paying for tuition with. You can still actually put it on the card first in a lot of cases. So anyway, I started doing that, man. And then I told a friend, I was like, Clayton, I just put all my tuition on this credit card and I got back $500. And he was like, what? What do you want? And that's where it all began. And from there, I started learning that you can do that not just once, but multiple times. And it's ballooned into this beautiful system now, which has gotten us $10,000 back. Actually, it's more now. That was my calculation last year, but it's allowed my family to travel, which is awesome as a PT student / new grad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And being able to, so basically you're taking advantage of a marketing strategy by these credit card companies. Say, if you sign on, we'll give you X amount of miles or we'll give you X amount of cash back. And every time you use the card, you get a certain percentage back. And so you're using that. And then I've been able to use that towards flights going back home, flights to conferences that I need to do. and just stuff that I'm already going to have to do. But if in somebody's situation like you with a family, you can also put it towards like these awesome vacations that otherwise you might not have been able to do, or you might not have been able to convince yourself or your family to do.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head, man. It's about understanding that card companies are businesses, credit card companies are businesses, and they know that there's a certain cost associated with getting a new customer. And so a lot of places like a restaurant will do buy one, get one free, right? To lure you in and hopefully you buy more than just the one sandwich. Credit card companies are the same. Banks are the same. They say, hey, if you come in, you get this fancy credit card that we offer and you spend $1,000 on it in the first month, or maybe it's $3,000 in the first 3 months. Then we'll give you a certain reward back. Maybe that's cash back, could be like $200, $400 back. Or they'll give you travel points, which we all know, like the Delta Sky Miles, right? You can get all those. And if you're smart about it, you can use that to your advantage, try out multiple cards, get the bonuses. If you like them, you hold on to them. And if not, you get rid of them. We can get into more detail in the actual system. But yeah, man, the what we've been able to do as a result has been really fun. And I took my family. So I have 2 kids. Right? I've got two little toddlers. Took my toddlers and my wife back to visit my in-laws that are back other side of the country. Ended up flying first class back there with a 2-year-old and a practical newborn. And sitting there at first class, like, oh my gosh, I hope nobody sees us. It was so cool. And for someone like yourself, who's a medical nomad, it just allows you to get around so much easier and see places that you might not otherwise be able to see.
Absolutely. And so you've been able to take advantage of this in over 5 figures back, $10,000, and climbing. Do you have a system now that you use? Is it much easier now than when you got started?
Definitely. So the very first time you do it, you're nervous about like, oh crap, what happens to my credit score, right? Yeah. That's always the first thing. And so I was really nervous about that because I was, over the next few years, I knew I was going to be buying a house and I had decent credit. But I had only ever had like one card before. So I was like, crap, what's this going to do? So I was really cautious going into it, which, it totally makes sense. You should be. But then over time, I started realizing, there are certain things that if I track the spending correctly, and if I make sure that I'm canceling the cards that I don't like at the right time, and most of all, if I'm just being a prudent user of a credit card, then it's just fine. Like, so I'm paying off my balance every month, right? Which is a big thing. So that I'm not going into debt for this stuff, because that's where they get you, man. That's where they just ream you. Where if you don't pay out the balance every month, you're getting like 18-20% interest rates on these cards. But yeah, now it's way easier. I came up with this system. I taught you the system, got a bunch of people and it's like, oh yeah, this totally works if you're self-controlled.
For sure. So can I just go out and buy a card and just start racking up, those points and get that sign-on bonus for the first month?
So you could do that, but that wouldn't be super smart, right? So the thing is, and we go into depth if this is something you're like, oh man, I want to learn about this. We go into further depth on it, but you want to find the right card offers, right? And they're not all created equal. So sometimes a card offer will be really good, and then they leave that up for like 3 months and then they'll drop it back down to sort of a baseline offer. So you want to obviously hit it when the offer is higher, right?
Yeah.
And you just sort of have to start looking at cards and looking at the different offers, or finding resources like drofcredit.com is a really good one, where you can go see, okay, what cards have the best offers right now. And then you have to have a system set up so that you can track how much you're spending on there, and you know exactly what the spending requirement is in order to get those bonus points.
Absolutely. And you hit on something earlier, and I think this is where, like you said, this is how the credit card companies, make their profits. When somebody is using that card and they get the card for the reason of getting those bonuses, but they start spending more than they do on a typical or average day, and then now they're actually building themselves into debt, which is higher than the actual reward, and so that risk to reward calculating all of a sudden just kind of goes out the window. But, so you are not using the cards to spend more money. You're only using the cards to purchase items or spend cash that you would already be spending.
Dude, absolutely 100%. And you've been through our stuff, so you know this, but if you're going to go out and get a card so that you can put extra junk on it, please don't do this. Like this is for someone who's like, okay, I can spend the same amount that I'm going to spend regardless of if I have a credit card or not. I have the self-control to know that at the end of the month, I'm paying the entire thing off anyway. So it's all coming out of my checking account, right? I don't use this any different than I would a debit card. Now, so here's the thing. If you follow Dave Ramsey will tell you that you should cut up all your credit cards. And I get that. I get why he tells people that. I get that there's this psychology of spending more through plastic than you would through cash. I totally get that. I've tracked that before in myself. And over time, I found that for myself, I can control my spending. I think that this goes for anything you guys do in life. If you track something, then you are able to control yourself. And so if you're not tracking how much you're spending, it's way easier to just swipe. And you don't feel you don't feel the hit, right? Until suddenly your bank account's empty or you have a ton of debt. But if you track your finances and you track each month what's actually coming in and what's going out, then you can actually have self-control with this thing.
Got it. So travel hacking might not be for everyone.
No, man, like you have to think of, okay, if I were given a credit card right now, what would I buy with it? And if your mind is suddenly like going nuts with all these crazy things you put on a card, like, let's slow down there, Turbo. Let's not do it yet. But if you're the type of person who's like, no, like I put all my stuff on a debit card anyway, maybe I already use a credit card and I'm getting that 1% or the 3% travel rewards, right? If you've proven to yourself that you're able to put money on a card and pay it off at the end of a month, then you'll be fine. It's a question of, would you rather have 1% or 2% back, or would you rather have like 18 to 20% back, right?
Absolutely. And so you can do this with one card, or you can kind of compound and do it with multiple cards as well. Can you describe that process?
Yeah, man. So I always recommend that someone starts off with one card. Okay, find one card that you like. Chase often has some of the best rewards bonuses, but you want to find one that doesn't have an annual fee associated with it for the first year. A lot of those will be waived. And you just start with one, right? The key is you got to know, is my credit good enough to get a card like this? And generally, for most of these higher bonus offers, your credit needs to be definitely above 700, probably above 725, and you're most safe if you're at around 750 or above. If you're under 700, there's a good chance you're going to get denied for the card. And if that's the case, there's multiple things you can do to bring your credit up, like paying your cards off. If you're carrying balances on your cards, as you pay down those balances, that brings your credit score up. Just having longevity in your payment history helps. So if you've had a card for a while, one thing, dude, can I tell you the biggest secret to getting your credit score up quickly?
What's that?
Okay, so if you have parents or maybe even a really kind sibling or maybe even a spouse that's had a credit card for a long time, most of the time for us youngins, the biggest impact on your credit score is not having a very long history, right? Like if you've never had a credit card before, for example, which I know a lot of people fall in that boat, then the companies have no clue if you're trustworthy, right? If you're going to be paying off your card. You can get added as an authorized user to someone else's existing card. So let's say your parents have had a card for 10 years. You can say, hey, mom and dad, would you just do me a favor and add me as an authorized user to your card? Heck, they don't even have to give you the card, right? They don't have to give you access to the card itself. But if they just put you on their account, a lot of times that'll bump people's credit score up by 20, 40, 50. Like I've seen bumps of almost 100 points in people who have done that. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's fairly instant, and it just takes having goodwill with someone who trusts you and is willing to do it.
For sure. Now, when I do start getting a card or multiple cards, what happens to the credit score at that point?
Yeah. So when you start to get multiple cards, then your credit score can actually improve over time. You'll probably see a bump of like 20 to 30 points downward for the first couple of months. It takes about 3 months for that to go away, and then it'll start working up again.
Very cool. All right. Yeah. So that's completely different from what I heard growing up, like wanting to stay away from credit cards, kind of like what you mentioned with Dave Ramsey. You always want to pay off your debts and stuff. But the more I delve into this, especially with paying off student loans, things like that, it's come to find out that sometimes debt isn't as bad as we make it out to be. And so taking different strategies, there are different strategies that you can do with it. What are some things that you wish you would have known starting out with this that you know now?
The first thing would be that it's not going to kill my credit. At first, I thought that it would, like we just talked about. The second thing is that I thought that it was going to be really hard to manage multiple cards. I got really scared, and so did my wife, right? So coming to my wife and saying, "Hey, what if we got like 5 cards eventually?" And now we've got like 20. I thought that it would be really hard to manage, and it's not. If you turn on auto pay on each card, then you don't have to worry about it, right? Like it's one click and then you're set for the rest of your life. Those would be the 2 biggest things that I thought would be an issue, and over time I saw weren't.
Got it. And now when you mentioned that when you get a new card, you do have a little bit of a credit drop. So in the instance of similar to us travelers taking low hourly wages, taxable, that's what the banks look at. They're also going to look at your credit if you're looking to maybe buy a house or purchase a vehicle or anything like that. So if you are in that transition phase, if you're about to make a big purchase, this might not be the right time for you. And you might want to wait until after that big purchase before starting something like this.
Yeah, I actually ended up buying a house. I didn't really mean to, but I ended up buying a house like right in the middle of doing this. We got into a situation where it was going to be better to just buy the darn house. And it actually didn't end up affecting us because our credit was above 750. And so the issue is if your credit drops below 750, that's when you stop being eligible for the best loans. So if you're buying a house and your credit score is like around 750, 740, this is maybe something you want to hold off on for a year or so. If you're at like 800, it doesn't really matter anyway. Above 750, all about the same.
Very cool. Okay. What is something that you have either purchased or gotten, either an item or an app that's really helped you with this whole process?
Dude, the very best app, and it's free, which is the best part, is mint.com. Okay, so it's also an app, but mint, mint.com. You know the guys that do TurboTax?
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that also put out this app, Mint, and it allows you to take all your bank accounts and kind of smush them all into one website, basically, so that you can track everything that's happening. So that's how I manage 20 cards all at once.
Wow.
I'm not logging into 20 different websites to manage all that.
Yeah.
I just add it to my free mint.com account, and I can see all of my transactions. I've never had a fraudulent charge come up in all these years. I've still never had that happen, knock on wood. But I also watch really carefully, and so Mint allows me to do that in spending like 10 minutes a week.
Yeah. And even if you're still like hesitant and you're not wanting to jump into the travel hacking yet, it's not the right time for you. Mint is just a really good app to have. Just easy way to see. You can put your bank info on there. You can put your credit card info on there, and it's all in one place on your phone. And then it breaks it up into a pie chart, and you get to see like, oh, okay, this is where all my majority of the spending is going, or wow, I didn't realize I was spending that much on food every week. It's just, you can't take action unless you're aware, and this really helps you be aware.
Yeah, man. I remember when we were first married, we were sitting down and we were looking at our finances, and we were like, man, where's all our money going? We have no clue. And we started with Mint. And after a month, it was like, oh, we're spending a lot on food. And so we like ran that down a little bit, right? Not that we ate worse, but it's just, dude, what you don't track is just going to like fly through your hands. So
absolutely,
it is my lifesaver.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. What is your favorite travel story? So you've been able to use these points. What's your favorite travel story?
Man, my very favorite one was right as I was finishing up grad school. And I remember sitting right after class one day. I was sitting there and everyone was talking about what they were going to do for graduation. We were about 6 months out, right? And I was like, man, I really want to go on a trip. And so I started like dreaming, what would a dream trip be for me? And I realized I had never been on a cruise, neither had my wife. And so we were like, we would love to go on a cruise. So I started looking, like, crap, that's like $1,300 if we're going to do that right after graduation. I don't have a job yet. How am I going to? And then I was like, wait a minute. I'll bet I could figure out a way to swing this. And so we did. Over the course of 6 months, we planned out this amazing cruise to the Bahamas. It was a 4-day trip. plus, some time on either end. Went down to Florida and enjoyed beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, and figured out a way to get the airfare, the hotels, the cruise itself, our rental car, and cash to spend, like totally covered by these credit card rewards. And so my challenge was like, can I get the entire freaking thing for free? And we just about pulled it off. It was amazing. My wife and I went down there, and man, just having some way to celebrate something big like a graduation with something like that, even though I didn't have like a job that was bringing in bank at the time, that was so satisfying. And just to be able to do that for my wife and I was just a barrel of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an exciting time too, because you're coming out of school, you've been in it for like 6+ years,
a lot longer.
Yeah, and then kind of being able to almost surprise your wife with it. I know she was involved with it, but that's really cool. That's really cool. Are there any books or podcasts or personalities that you follow, either for this or just in general?
Yeah, man. I'll tell you websites that I follow for this. There's one called thepointsguy.com.
Okay.
There's another one called Doctor of Credit, and that's kind of my go-to resource for finding the best offers. Those in the travel hacking world, those are my favorites. Starting off, like, you can watch YouTube, but there's a lot of like sketchy content out there about how to do this, and you'll see that there's some people that really try to game the system. So I just generally try to stay away from anything other than those two. If people want more that we put out, they can go to gotherefree.com. That's our website. Okay. But in terms, I want to talk general books for a second, because I love to read. And I just, let's see, this is one that I'm reading right now. I'm about to finish it. I think it's probably my favorite book ever. It's called The One Thing.
Okay.
Have you read this before?
I've not.
Okay. The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Okay.
I think this should be, if you only read one book this year, make it The One Thing. It's all about how to figure out what you should be focusing on in life, and how ultimately you accomplish more by doing less, but by doing more of the right thing and less of everything else. And man, it's been really, really good. I would highly recommend that.
Awesome. Well, you have a website for all this, and that the one thing is definitely going to be on my list now. I'm about to do home health, and so I'm about to have all this like time in the vehicle, so I'm going to get some mega reading or
man, I'm gonna have to drop you my book list.
Yeah, I'm wide open to that. So you have your own website for this travel hacking business, and you also have a course. And so I wanted to tell the listeners and bring this to you guys' attention. You can absolutely learn this on your own, but going through Alex's course, like I have, saved me so much freaking time. Because like you said, you get we're kind of in the information age where all this stuff is kind of coming in. It's overwhelming. You don't know if it's true information, correct information, who this person is online. But you were able to condense it into a very short amount of time and really just like streamline that educational piece. I would stay in the basement. This was a little bit before I started traveling, and I would hit play and I'd be ironing my shirts for work for the week. And then that's how I learned. And it just saved me so much amount of time. So it's really, it's an incredible course, and thank you so much for doing that. But can you talk a little bit about your website and about the course itself?
Yeah, man. So the website, if you want to get a blueprint that we've created of everything that I just said, it's kind of a summary walking you through the general steps of this travel hacking stuff. You can go to gotherefree.com/Dylan, because y'all are Dylan fans, so we're going to hook you up. Gotherefree.com/Dylan. And our course, like Dylan mentioned, is everything that we've learned over 4 years of doing this between a friend and I, condensed into a very short amount of time. Actually, I just looked at it. If you sum everything up, it's like 60 minutes of content. Wow. Broken up into very small. Dude, I'm such a fan of like, how can I give you everything you need in as little time as possible?
Yeah.
And so we do have a course. Dylan was one of the very first to go through it, and has just been a champion. Dylan, I want to hear, what have you done since the course? Because you took it. It's been almost a year.
Yep.
What have you racked up since then?
I've only gotten one card so far, and I believe I got 60,000 travel points with it. So knowing that I'm going to be traveling a lot, I didn't so much go for the cash. I went for the travel points, and I could have used it for this flight ticket home, but I decided to wait on it. And so I'm going to be getting my flight back using these points. I got several conferences. September's like the conference heavy month of the year. And so I got all these different things, a speaking event, another conference going to, I got some weddings to go to. That's all just going to funnel in there. And so I'm going to be able to actually, go and be in my friend's wedding.
Yeah.
Without, being worried about, oh, is this going to be coming out of my bank? I'm also going to be able to go to those conferences, the Travelers Conference, TravCon. I'll be able to go to that without it affecting my bank statement. And so, yeah, I've just started being able to, or just started using the points because I've been able to use the points, but and then we'll see what I have left over, and then I'm going to go out of the country at the end of this year, and if I got anything left, I'll funnel it towards there, but we'll see.
Nice, man. You got to go through the module about scaling cards then.
Yeah.
And because once you get one and you figure out that you can do it, then you're safe to go on and get more. Man, we got to get that whole trip paid for.
For sure. And then something I really found was valuable was that some companies don't allow you to just like get multiple cards at the same time. So you can't just go out and sign up for 5 different cards and try and take advantage of all these sign-on bonuses. And the one I'm thinking of is Chase. And they only allow you, I forget the rule of how many cards you can actually get in this so long of a period. But yeah, being able to know like the smart decision or being able to figure out my why for what I'm wanting to use it for and look at, okay, this card might be good for just a short, brief moment, but this card over here has benefits that last. And so this one would be the best one for me to get.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, the bonus of paying someone to help you do this is that over time, if you don't do it right, you actually miss out on thousands of dollars of rewards that you could have gotten. Like you mentioned with the Chase thing, that was something that it actually came about when we were starting to do this. And my friend didn't know it, and I did, and I should have told him. I told him just a little bit too late, and now he missed out on probably $2,000 because of that. And so we funneled all that into this course where it's like, look, let's just break it down for you. Here's all the rules that you need to make sure that you're following. Here's how to track everything. Here's all the resources we've used. Just makes it a whole heck of a lot easier to get everything out of it that you can.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, if listeners, if you are interested in Alex's course or just seeing the blueprint or any of the other information that he has on the website, gotherefree.com/Dylan. That is an affiliate link. But you guys can go there, check it out. I highly recommend it. It really helps me set up with this, with everything else that I'm doing right now. This was the preferred way to do it. Alex, do you have anything that you want to tell the listeners?
Yeah, here's the only thing. You guys that listen to Dylan right now are go-getters because you're listening to a podcast, right? You're probably passionate about travel PT, about finding ways to creatively make money for yourselves. And I told Dylan this a long time ago, gosh, maybe a year ago when you were just starting the podcast. If you've got something like travel PT that you're wanting to start, or you're scared about it, or you've got whatever it is that you feel like you want to go after, just start taking imperfect action towards that. Dylan knows that I'm a big fan of this, and in everything that I've accomplished, nothing has come because I waited until it was the right time, until I waited. Like, I just don't wait till I feel like something is perfect, right? And so I put out a lot of stuff that like is admittedly imperfect. Like right now, I'm actually still building the website that I just promised you, Dylan. But I know that by saying it, I will get it done by the time it's imperfect action. So I just want to encourage everyone to take a little more imperfect action in their lives towards the things that they really want. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to keep sitting around wishing that you had, and life is going to be so much better. Commit to little imperfect action. That's all I'll leave you with.
Yeah. That could be a podcast episode in itself. Starting the podcast, this podcast. I used to be such a perfectionist, and I think you have to be. In the shows for travel nurses, travel sonographers, travel OTs, PTs, but when you go through that rigorous of a school, like you almost have to be a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And really get down to the details and nitty gritty and study so that you can nail those tests, nail those boards, move on, take those state exams. And then go into something like this where you want to, you're putting yourself out there and you're watching yourself and you're like, oh my God, my voice, like how do people just like sit there and listen to me? you want to make it perfect, but that makes you so unproductive. And if that would have been the case, I wouldn't have been able to release as many episodes as I have so far. It's just take one step at a time, and you're moving forward. And then you listen to it, and you're like, oh wow, I could have done that better. And then you fix it. And it's a process, and it gets better. But and I'm going to steal this quote from you: imperfect action will beat perfect inaction every time. And that really stuck with me.
Yeah, man. Totally love it. Absolutely love what you've done with your podcast, man, over the course of a year. Major props for having stuck with it for a year. And like, look at you now, right? Aren't you glad that you started it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Over the fact that it was going to be imperfect. You're going to say, you're going to hate how you sounded. You're going to mess up your intros. A year later, you're so glad that you just did it. Early on, it's uncomfortable. And then looking back, you're like, dang, I'm just so glad I stuck with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, the best thing, the most surprising benefit of this has been my network and the friends that I've gotten to meet and the stories that I've gotten to hear. And that for sure has just made it all worth it. But Dr. Alex Engar, thank you so much for joining on the New Medical Nomads podcast. I'm going to be adding you to the New Medical Nomads group as well, so any listeners can reach out and ask Alex any travel hacking questions that they might have. If you're looking for the next official launch of the podcast, you go to newmedicalnomads.com. Or if you want early access to the episodes, you can subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, and then you will get them as soon as I upload them. But thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate it. Listeners, if you like this, if you got any benefit, hit the thumbs up button, hit the little heart symbol, share it out. The more people that we can reach with this information, the more people that we can help, which is ultimately the goal of the show. But yeah, Alex, thank you so much. This was a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much. And I'll be getting on the scaling cards part now. I think I'm ready.
You too, man.
All right. And for the nomads, everybody have safe travels.